So here's a bit of that Dorian. So back to the E7. And 5. Okay, so that is what we're looking at on this one from a keyboard perspective. So what we're trying to do is show the different flavor. You can hear that having that minor 5 right here going to a dominant 4 is just a different sound. And so we approach it differently when we're soloing, but we also perceive it differently when we hear that as compared to the minor, or to the minor blues, but also to the Dorian variation that we just saw before. So if we want to see a bit of this one on the guitar, we come to our guitar view, and we're going to just quickly run down if we're in B flat Dorian. So this is going to be over here, the 6th fret, and this is what it looks like. Again, we've seen this Dorian pattern, but just to see it in this tonality, one more time, little slower. And then right there in that same grip, we have the blues of B flat minor. Do that slower. Okay, so that again, just one spot, but let's throw it on. And how are we with time?
At least 10.
Okay, that's fantastic.
You have time enough to do your other alternate and minor? I already did minor.
Yeah, we just have one more
Sweet.
to talk through, and then.
So we got 10. Yeah, let's do alt 3 and see if we can get some questions down.
Okay, so really quick, guitar solo on this one, then we'll throw up the alt 3.
All right, guys.
So here's B flat.
Questions, right?
So one more time through the turnaround. 5 minor, 4 dominant. And that is a little bit of B flat Dorian, a little bit of a different turnaround. Also a little bit of a different groove. Still bluesy, but a little faster, a little more straight ahead. So we have one more example in Dorian. And for this one, we got a little crazy. We got a little wacky, a little wild, a little crazy. And we decided to bring back that flat 6 from last time. So this one is going to be an E. And let's just take a quick look down what we've got. E for the 1 chord, A7 for the 4, and then back to E minor. Four, back to the 1. So now here's where we have a little bit of a different turnaround. So we get to the 5, and then up to the 6 for 2 beats, back to the 5 for beats 3 and 4, and then back to the 1. So this is different for a couple different reasons. First of all, we didn't see that condensation of having 2 chords in the same bar in any of the other examples. And we also didn't see this particular kind of arrangement of chords. So having the 5 be dominant, but then also kind of go backwards to the 6 and back. And so then you see in the very last bar here, we have 5, but a flat 7. So again, just a little bit of a variation that works in a funky blues. It could work in any kind of blues, but it's just something that adds a little bit of pull out of that 5 chord, and you hear it go from a sharp 7 sound to a flat 7 sound there. So I'll tell you what, because I've got the guitar view up, let's just start with this one on guitar. Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay. So this one is clearly more funky. Okay, that's the other thing about this one, is we're going to invoke the funk a little bit and see what this form looks like applied to something not so bluesy in feel. So E Dorian funk, and I'm going to take us through that form. So 5, 6, 5, and then 5, turnaround. Okay, so different flavor, and the only thing we haven't done with that yet is take it over here to the keyboard and see what it looks like here. Now, we could put that on hold if we have questions or input. We're okay? All right, we're going to roll right through. So real quick, just same thing, but from the keyboard perspective. So now, E Dorian is going to have a parent scale of D major. So we're seeing E, but with F sharp and C sharp in there. And then, of course, E minor blues looks like this. So let's try throwing this on for a little bit of a keyboard perspective. Turn around. One more. Okay. So that is all really what we wanted to show. So that one definitely opens up the possibilities on that turnaround, throwing in the flat six, moving back. We're still just scratching the surface, but what we wanted to look at today was some of the other variations that are common. Like these are the ones that you hear, more often than not, in addition to the ones that we saw last week. So yeah, there are a lot more. Yeah, there are some crazier ones, and there's all kinds of, once you start to get into jazz treatments of a blues, what we call substitutions that you can do to really, really move further and further away from the basic 12-bar form while still kind of retaining that basic sound. But we're not going to go there right now.
I actually do have a question from the chat that is about that.
Oh, okay.
It said, Sopster says, it seems like the first 8 bars are fairly standard, and the turnaround is where things get crazy. But do you have an example or know any examples where the 4 bars go way outside of the progression before resolving?
Well,
No. Well, he can rephrase the question.
yeah, we'll do it. Thanks for letting us know, though. Okay, so let me get my head around that, though. So they're asking.
Any examples where the 4 bars go way out, like the
Okay, so the first.
way out of control before resolving to 1?
Right. Well, I don't have an example that I can pop out off the top of my head, but basically, you don't want to mess with the placement of that 4 chord and that 1 chord too much. However, there are different ways of approaching them. And so I can give a quick example. So let's say that we're let's just stay in the key we're in. So E Dorian, this is our 1, this is our 4. But there are different ways of getting in and out of these chords, approaching them and, resolving. So something that you might see, and I'm just doing this off the top of my head, is you might have a 1, but then as a means of approaching that 4, you could have something like what we'd call a tritone substitution 5. So you'd have 1, and you might just have it as a passing tone, like.
Okay.
So that's just a quick example.
Sure.
of-
I have another one now.
Yeah, yeah,
So I have a question from Superplaid64.
yeah.
Of course, a regular
Super
viewer of
plaids.
ours.
Good to see you.
Earlier you mentioned playing shells for the chords as
Yes.
in transitions.
Absolutely.
And do you have any good tips for voicings? Oh, sure. For voicings for things like 11th chords on piano, like extensions. But tips for good voicings for, like dropping what? Oh, I see. Somebody else is trying to answer his question. But yes.
Okay.
Any tips for good voicings for
For-
shells of chords?
For the shells of chords?
As far as I understand the questions. Any tips for good voicings for things like 11th chords on piano?
Well, I don't, I don't have like, oh, here's a quick tip to make a cool 11th chord voicing on piano. The thing, though, that I will say about shell voicings, and forgive me if it's not quite answering the question, but it is on topic, is that I was taught that a fantastic way to be able to read through a jazz standard is to do it with shell voicings in your left hand. So, for example, if you saw a tune that went 2-5-1 in C, so it went like this, you would actually play it with just this in your left hand. So you're not hearing the root motion, you're not hearing this stuff, you're just hearing the voice leading. But what's cool is, again, that gives you the core of what you need. So a fun thing to play around with is to learn a tune, or even just start with a single chord, like let's say C7. Practice having the shell voicing in your left hand, and then experiment with different tones of color that you can add on the top. So for example, let's say you wanted like a 9 and a 13. So you've got the shell down here. You can look at the different ways you could achieve that 9 and 13. One is by playing a 5th over the top, right? The other way would be like to rearrange it up here. Another way would be to put the 9 in with the 3rd, a repeat of the 3rd, and have the 6 up here, or the 13. So this is just a way to use these shell voicings kind of creatively, is start with them in the left hand, and then experiment with different shapes to create different colors on top, and that's where you really get into some interesting stuff as far as altered chords and finding triads that work. So, for example, like if you played a D major triad over this shell voicing, ooh, I like that one. You end up with a 9, a sharp 4, and a 13. So kind of a more biting variation of what we were doing, but you get that by combining two shapes together, a D major chord and the tritone of a C. Yeah, related to kind of that slash chord idea. So yes, you can look at triads in terms of how do they fit over a tritone, or not necessarily a tritone. Remember, shell voicing can also be a fifth. If it's a minor chord, it would be like that. And looking at what kind of shapes can augment that color by invoking notes that you're not doing in the left hand already. But voicings are a huge world, and I'm sure we will have a lesson on chords and a lesson on voicings, and probably at that time you might see us go a little bit deeper into how to get some cooler voicings and specific types of chords like 11th chords. But the last thing I'll say about an 11th chord, because it seems to keep coming up in chat, people like 11s, is it's really typically a minor flavored chord, right? We achieve that by starting with a minor chord, adding the minor 7, the minor 9, the minor 11. And we get that very stacked full sound. But you don't see 11s in a dominant chord because it sounds dissonant.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really work. And you don't really see them in a major chord either because, again, it rubs against the third. So when you talk about 11s, you're really talking about a chord that's either some kind of a sus or that is minor. So hopefully that was a little bit helpful. I know it was a little tangential.
I'm super glad, really,
Yeah, no, great questions. Thank
good.
you guys for hanging with us and talking about the blues, jumping in, asking some great questions.
Cool.
And I feel like we're there for getting ready for
we're
Dogboy.
Right on. We're just about ready.
All right, so stay tuned
of course, Deacon's late, but whatever.
Yeah, well.
But thank you, of course, Sam, very much.
Yeah, thank you guys for hanging, and we'll see you next time.
Cool. Let's get ready.
Let's do it for ADD
scramble.
drumming.
Woo! What is this? Zombie alert.
No. Wow. It's like just one of those weird things, no matter what kind of. No matter how much you kind of think about it yourself doing it in your head, right. Try to play through it. It's just like then you're just hanging out, right. So the buffer thing doesn't work.
Okay, well then let's pull up our cameras and get it on down.
I like this keyboard camera angle.
So what we're doing now is we're just repositioning some cameras.
Okay.
Alright, so there's already one camera down there that gets his feet. This camera right here is going to get turned around over here to get the top of the drums. And we'll basically probably just move it over. Once we get two more cameras in here that are always constantly set up, we don't have to do this crap anymore. So it's basically just turn things on and just go to the next show.
I like this process though.
You do?
Yeah.
I'm not liking it at all.
I like setting things up and kind of.
That's just
We're doing it live.
We're doing it live. Alright, so
Because that's totally what it is.
is this are people watching the feed of this or?
Possibly. That's cool. Just don't say nasty things. I know it's.
The whole audience is very fashion. Anything on Twitter.
Anyone has that set up already.
Where did I have a shorter stand? Jake, underneath the vibes, there's a mic stand right there behind that backpack. I would love that. I'm sorry, I asked you for the wrong stand. I'm sorry.
It sounds pretty good. Can't wait to check it out.
I would love to get that from you. Thank you, sir.
Try to jam in the beginning.
Yeah, every time, honestly. But this time I was like playing along with my bass. Not sure, I gotta jam soon.
Yeah, there's no way to know when it's happening.
I'm just saying.
It's just
I
like,
know, we had you jamming though, so that way when it came on, it wasn't like so. Oh, we on?
We're gonna get you a chat. A big old TV that has chat monitor, so you can actually see people asking you questions as you go.
That is rowdy.
That's
And
that's important.
we're gonna get a laptop in here.
what am I
that
standing on?
basically can link to the
Seriously?
network in there, so
Okay,
you can
can you help me
press
with
the
this
button
power
where
strip,
it
please?
We don't even need to
I
go
just,
through that.
it's a few feet too far over there.
You basically just
Oh, no, the strip part. Yeah. We're just trying to make a connection here.
that idea is happening.
We're just trying to network, you know.
Usability requirements are
Alright.
a big deal right now.
It should work.
Trying to make it so that
Let's see if I can get 3 back. Boom. And looks good. Good job, team. Alright, stream. Are we still up? I love it. Get ready for ADD drumming with Brian Burwell. Turn me black real quick. Like, yeah. This happens. This is the part that you, yeah. Oh, here. I got you. I'm sorry.
Actually, you know what? That's fine.
What? Yeah, that is fine.
Leave that.
Well, then go up and press enter. Awesome.
Ah!
Are we ready?
No!
We're clean. Let's do it.
I'm fixing a hi-hat. Oh. It became loose. It became loosey. I'm home. All right, that was good enough. Just to kind of get loose, get ready. I'm going to spin my sticks because it's cool. You know, I can't help it. I need to look right there at the camera. Instead, just right here, it's me, and you know, I can't help it. Actually, it's just like going, oh, I need to lose a little weight. I'm going to get... Welcome, everyone, or all 3 or 4 of you, or 10,000 or 200 million, you know, future. That's what we're going for. Welcome to ADD, Attention Deficit Drumming. Wow, I hear reverb in my head. I like it. We're just going to start out. Today, I'm just going to do a couple licks. We're going to do a couple licks and see what we get out of them. So I'm going to start with a little story. I went to some vintage drum show at the old Remo factory. I don't know, like 2007, 2008. And there was a drum clinic I saw with a drummer named Gary Novak, who is just a brilliant drummer, super nice guy. I think I met him for like 2 seconds, and he did some actual session work for the group Powder that I ended up playing for, and his tracks were just out of this world. That's all I can say. I remember him, I think it was the Chicory Electric Band, just burning. And so I want to show one of his licks that I stole from him. Of course, I stole it. I just took it. I just took it right from him. Yes, I did. Well, I'm going to show you the lick. It's fairly simple, but it's hard to play really fast. And then I'm also going to show like the extra stuff that I added to it. So right off the bat, let's go. It's a paradiddle on the snare drum, but just a right-handed paradiddle. Right, left, right, right. Just this. No big deal. I tend to put an accent. I'll get in there and put accents in different places. It's partially how I can start to know the lick. So it's a paradiddle, right, left, right, right, and then we're going to go left, right, foot, foot. That's all it is. Paradiddle, and I say the word paradiddle again. Paradiddle, paradiddle. Diddle with the foot. So slowly, it is this. Lick. That's what he showed. Now, if you'll notice, I accent the very first hit because that's my starting point. That's where I want the pulse. That's how I want to feel it cycle. Breathe, Brian, breathe. I can only talk so long before I take a breath. All right, then. Here it is again. I'll play it a little faster. I love that lick. I love that lick, but I wanted more. I wanted more to it. So this is what I did. At the end of it, because I wanted to cycle a little different. And when I work on this stuff, I am not necessarily thinking this amount, that amount. I just kind of would go for what I thought sounded good, and the pattern ends up that it's 14. It's 8, the paradiddle, foot, foot, then reversing it, right, left, right, right, left, left, or paradiddle, diddle, and I'll play just that part. So you can work on all of these separate. You do your first one, and then the second half. Just till you get them fairly comfortable, and then you try putting them together and take it slow. And again, place that accent at the very first note so that when you get back through the paradiddle, diddle, paradiddle, you'll. Now, since it's 14 beats long, I'll use it in solos just whenever, and some people will be like, oh my gosh, you threw in some odd time. Yes, but I'm not necessarily thinking of it that way. So in a groove, it won't necessarily work. You have to add something to it, or in a way, I think of it as taking away something. So what I'll do is I'll do a kick drum on beat 1. For the first 2 like 8th notes, 1 and then start the fill. So I just was practicing this today, and let me see if I can remember, because I haven't practiced it other than I use it in solos all the time, or I'll do it a bunch of times and then just do another fill, like where I'll do something like this. And I'll just fill out till I feel the 1 coming around again. Or I'll do something like this, where I'll. works out all right. So you just nail a beat on one. And a lot of times, I don't know, I never count this stuff. When I come up with these, or steal them from somebody else and add things to them, like really what this was, I'm honestly, I'll spend a bunch of time in a room just playing. And what happens is certain licks will just come out just through trial and error. I'm just winging things and seeing, or I put on a CD. My favorite in high school, when I got the CD player, was Janet Jackson, Control. Control! Now I'm all grown up. You probably don't even know what that song is if you're this old. And you know what? It was basically a drum machine. I didn't really play along to click that much. I would put on a song that had drum machine parts, and that song had just kind of a simple groove to it, and then I would drum along, but not playing the song. I would just solo and see what I could fit in within the song structure, which was a huge help, and I recommend it. Sit and play along to tunes. Don't necessarily play the drum beat to the song. Play your own thing. Learn the drum beat, learn the song form, learn the song, and then don't just drill it to death. Start expanding. Come up with your own fills. That's the best advice I could probably give out of everything that I would ever give is to anyone is that you need to learn how to be an artist. Like you're painting a picture, you're having a conversation on the drums, you're telling a story. Sometimes the words don't mean anything, and I talk about this a lot. But other times, the more you do it, the better you get at talking. It's like school. The more you learn math, the easier it becomes, even though I have to admit I was horrible in math. I think I stopped, I don't know, I was a senior when I attempted to take advanced algebra. Yeah, when most people took it like in 10th grade, but I took elementary algebra like 2 years in a row and failed one time. And actually I'd like to tell this story. So when I was in high school, I had this teacher. I think his name, I'm going to say his name. No, maybe I won't. He was my algebra teacher. And at age 13, I was as tall as I am right now. And he didn't totally get along with him very well. Well, not at first, absolutely. When he was trying to get me to play basketball, he was like, everything was great. And when I said, I played drums, and I really don't have an interest in basketball. And he convinced me to come to one practice, and I had all my martial arts stuff, so I'm doing the splits, and he's just like, oh my God, this guy's going to be great. But I wouldn't play basketball, and gee whiz, I got an incompleteness class, so I didn't even get an F. I got 0 points, and my dad wouldn't let me drum unless I made the honor roll. And luckily, my band classes, which I got A's in, brought my average up. So, just little stories. And yeah, that was actually a good motivator from my dad, because I was probably a D student until high school when I started playing drums. And Dad's like, if you don't make the honor roll, you can't play drums for the whole semester. Blah, blah, blah. Long story short, trying to do Chewbacca to a camera with no friends around to laugh at me. But that's all right. All right, so back to the licks. I don't even know where I was going. I totally lost my train of thought. So I was doing that lick, and then come like, oh, I want to show you what I came up with after that. Oh, I was talking about being inventive and just trial and error, trying things and playing along to songs. We go on to this. Okay, this time I take the same lick, or almost the same type, the paradiddle, but instead I always thought I was doing a 5-stroke roll, but really I'm doing a 6-stroke roll, like this. I'm going right, left, left, right, right, left. And then I finish out the lick. So I got to remember it. Here, let me play it a couple times. That'll be easier because my mind just, I don't think of it mathematically. That's my slow motion rock and roll. I don't know if you noticed that. I don't know if anybody in the world would even care. But so I'm doing a 6-stroke roll, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's a 9. The lick is a 9, which actually fits really nice in a lot of playing situations when you're playing fast. A lot of gospel chops use a lot of 9s, and I love it. So let me try it in a groove. I'm not gonna. I always have the hardest time when I tell you I'm gonna play it with something. If I just do it, it comes out no problem. But when I start thinking about things too much, I have a much harder time. So here, I'm gonna start with the lick. Now, as you can see, I will tend to, I'll do my lick, and then I'll start tying it into other things. And that's a huge important thing to practice, is not just sit and do your one lick all the time. You got to see if you can daisy chain these into other licks, and so you can find out what works. Like, I'll just play some. Oh, I totally whiffed that at the end. See that ride cymbal move on me? He keeps trying to get away. Keep trying to hit it. That's something else I will do, is when I mess something up, I just keep drilling it over and over again. I'll do it in a show, like live in front of people. I'll whiff something, just stink it up, and then I'll try to do it again. And I'll try to do it again over and over and over again until I get it right, which sometimes I don't. I'd like to give you advice, and it's advice that I don't necessarily follow all the time, which is I tell students, play what you know when you're in a live playing situation or an audition or especially a session, because things in a studio situation, you've got to be really careful. You've got to do the right things, meaning really listen to the producer, the engineer, whoever, songwriter. You've got to find out who you need to listen to, and then you're trying to please them. So you don't want to overplay. You don't want to play stuff that you're not confident with. You've got to be really careful about that. Now that I've said that, and the same for live and all these things, you could throw that out the window too, because I do it all the time. I can't help it sometimes. I put it out there. I will sometimes, and it's gotten me in trouble in sessions where something will just come out. And this is why you practice and why you chain things together, because sometimes magic happens. And if you're lucky in those situations, you're just letting it go. You're feeling it. Yeah, you're locking in with the click, which you could forget about because hopefully you've practiced enough to where it's a guide and it's not a crutch. You're not relying on it too much, and you're also trying not to listen to it because you want to vibe with the music. You want to get so good with the click that you just don't think about that. So, in saying that, a lot of times, for me, in a session, things just come out, or I attempt things, because I also want to be fresh and interesting. I usually start by playing the simplest thing, and that usually does it. But sometimes we want other takes, or they'll go, be a little more expressive or try something different. So I'll start to really experiment, and I'll pull something off I've never done before. And then they go, yeah, let's do another take, and we want you to do that drum fill again. And I won't even, literally in the moment, won't know what I've done. Yes. My nipples? No. leave. He said, what's the best way to handle disagreements? Let's see. You know, a little story. There was a producer who used to be an A&R guy for Capitol Records, and I was ghosting. I don't know if you know what ghosting is. I've mentioned it before. It's where it's a band and I come in and replace the drummer that's actually in the band. Now that's a whole nother story, which I've got to tell you, and I might go into that after this. But did I forget the question? ADD, baby! Ha ha! Oh, disagreements. So one of the things that happened was the producer came in first, and he told me what he wanted. He wanted real simple, just 2 and 4. He said no cymbal crashes except for tags going into other sections, like going from verse to chorus, and then from chorus to verse. Otherwise, it was AC/DC. Now, he walked out of the room, and then the songwriter came in, and behind his back came and started just going, this is what I want. This is dabba dabba dabba. This also has to do with how you deal with producers and artists. Delicate geniuses, sometimes we call them. So I get different direction from him. I get different direction. I don't even know if this is going to answer the question that I was asked. From both of them. And so when I did the next take, I actually did what the 18-year-old singer-songwriter wanted, and the producer came in, he was furious. He's like, what the F's going on? We just talked about this, and he's like screaming at me, and which normally doesn't ever happen. I never get producers that scream at me. I've had bandmates that have and thrown stuff at me, and I've thrown stuff at them, and and then we kiss and make up, and it's all wonderful. But I've got these two guys, and then they're fighting because, I want it this way, and I just my solution was I got them both in the room together, and I said, you guys have hired me, and we're on the clock, and we're gonna, it's by the hour, and the studio's by the hour, and we just had to calmly talk it out, kind of. And I said, you know what? The producer hired me. I have to do what the producer says. I made a mistake. I listened to you, the guitar player, songwriter, but all you have to do is go to him. He'll let me know if you guys you just don't go behind his back. That's just one situation. The other is sometimes you got to just kind of cool out. I know it's very different from studio than if you're in a band with somebody. There's a band called Shawsbot that I played with that was like my band with my buddies, and we all wrote together as a band. And man, we could get in absolute knockdown, drag-out fights. I remember the bass player like throwing his bass across the room, and I think our guitar player was fired maybe 6 or 7 times, and it was his band. And sometimes we just had to go away for a minute, just get away from each other and calm down. Back in the day, I used to go just out back and do a bunch of karate. Because it just calmed me down, or I'd play through it. But most of the times, for me, disagreement-wise, session-wise, I just suck it up and I'm the most agreeable person that's going to be on the session. Because then I'm probably going to get hired again. Biggest problem is when there's multiple personalities to make happy. And let's get back to some more playing, but I've got so many darn stories. Doing stuff for a really big movie company that starts with D, that deals mostly with kids and animation. I've got some interesting stories about playing with some people and in that world and how I got the gig. And a lot of gigs I've just fallen into. Blah, blah, blah. See, I'm going on with all my stories. My little stories. Hi. I'm saying hi to my son. He's almost 3, and to my wifey poo. All right, back to it. So really, I showed you the 2 licks that I wanted to show today, and kind of how I string things together. So now I'm going to switch gears. We're going to go to something else. And I always tend to do this. That's the one basic lick. Now we'll go to some crazy, maybe, exercise. All right, we'll go like advanced right now. You should try this. This is 5. We're going to play in 5 with our feet. It's going to go right, left, left. Now, it took me probably a year to get where I could do anything to this. And I might have even shown some of this last week, but I just want to go into it more because I think it's really cool and it's stuff I'm working on. So I've shown you stuff I already know. Now I'll show you stuff I'm working on now. All right. So first of all, you just want to sit and do the pattern. Trying my breakdance moves. All right, from there, you're just going to see if you can do anything with your hands. I mean, literally anything. Since I think I showed something like this last week, I'm not sure if I did the 5 pattern with the feet. But first, let's just try this. We'll just, right hand will play like 8th notes or whatever the value of the feet is. And we'll put a backbeat in. And that's a good way to start hearing the cycle of the 5 also. All right. So that's the first thing you want to try working on. I'm just keeping time here, backbeat here. Now, I'm just going to try some things, and then I'll explain it, because I kind of have to do it that way, because sometimes I don't know what the heck I'm talking about, or, well, it's true. Well, you'll see. I think I'm going to try to change the right hand, and then I have to hear what I'm actually doing before I can describe what it is. Ooh, right foot first. All right, so at the end, I don't know what happened, but I think I was accenting every 3 notes with the regular backbeat going on, with the 5 going on with the feet. Then I switched to doing groups of 5 up here, the da 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 da, or the way I hear it in my head, I sing out da din, like this, da